A narcissist's final move only appears when they realize they no longer own your mind. For months or even years, they operated under the assumption that they had permanent, unrestricted access to your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions. They truly believed they had programmed you to always put their needs first, to always doubt your own reality, and to always look to them for validation. But the exact second they feel that compliance slipping, a psychological switch flips deep inside their mind. This isn't a gradual realization. It is a sudden, shocking wake-up call for them. They look at you and notice that you are no longer reacting to the same old triggers. They realize that the emotional strings they used to pull are suddenly cut, and instead of taking a step back to reflect, their immediate instinct is to escalate. You have to understand that a narcissist will never respect your growth, and they will absolutely never feel proud of your healing. While a normal, healthy person rejoices when they see someone they care about breaking free from anxiety and standing tall, a narcissist views your recovery as an act of war. Your newfound clarity is a direct threat to their survival. When a narcissist sees you become too aware of their patterns, too independent in your daily choices, and too emotionally anchored to be manipulated, it panics them. They realize that their standard toolkit of gaslighting, guilt trips, and silent treatments has completely lost its power over you. Because they cannot tolerate this loss, they begin quietly engineering one last dirty trick, a massive psychological ambush designed specifically to hit you when you least expect it, targeting your deepest vulnerabilities to shatter your progress at its very core. If you are not actively prepared for this exact moment, this final desperate move can completely undo months or even years of your hard-earned emotional healing in a matter of minutes. The danger lies in how unexpected it is. Before this trap springs, there is always a heavy, highly unsettling period of quiet, tense friction in the atmosphere. You can feel the shift, even if you can't fully explain it yet. They are observing you, testing your new boundaries with small provocations, and measuring just how strong your resolve really is. They are looking for a crack in your armor. To navigate this safely, you must come to terms with a fundamental truth about narcissistic psychology. Their deepest, most terrifying fear is not rejection, and it is not abandonment. They can handle people leaving them because their ego will just rewrite history to make them the victim. Their absolute worst nightmare is the exact moment the person they used to dominate becomes mentally, logically, and emotionally stronger than they are. This specific realization completely destroys the fragile illusion of absolute superiority they rely on just to function. Narcissists do not possess a stable internal sense of self-worth. They are entirely hollow inside, meaning they depend exclusively on external validation and the submission of others to feel real. They have spent their entire lives constructing a false identity where they are always the smartest, most important, and most powerful person in the room. When you stand up, step back, and look at them with calm, unshakable awareness, that entire illusion cracks right down the middle. Your strength forces them to catch a glimpse of their own intense inner weakness and emptiness. And rather than facing that terrifying reality, they will do absolutely anything to force you back down to your knees. The core problem is that narcissists are fundamentally incapable of facing their own internal emptiness. So their only defense mechanism is to project it directly onto you. They carry a massive amount of hidden shame, self-loathing, and chaos inside their minds. But because their ego cannot handle that weight, they constantly seek an external trash can to dump it into. They blame you for things they did, they criticize your flaws to distract from their own, and they accuse you of being the toxic one, so they never have to look in the mirror. For a long time, this dynamic worked perfectly for them because you accepted their emotional baggage as your own. But the very moment you start doing the deep internal work of healing, this entire power dynamic undergoes a massive, irreversible shift. True healing doesn't have to look loud, dramatic, or confrontational on the outside. In fact, the most terrifying form of healing for a narcissist is completely quiet. It happens when you stop arguing, stop defending your character, and simply start trusting your own intuition again. It happens in those small, silent moments when you choose to set a firm boundary without feeling a single shred of guilt, and when you finally make the decision to stop endlessly explaining your motives to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop chasing them down to prove your innocence, the supply of emotional energy they used to feed on instantly dries up. To you, this shift is just healthy personal growth and a return to sanity. But to the narcissist's distorted mind, it feels like an aggressive, malicious stripping of their power. They sense this change in the air immediately, even if they can't quite articulate it in words. You must constantly remind yourself that these individuals are never, under any circumstances, searching for a genuine human connection, mutual respect, or real love. They do not know how to exist in an equal partnership. They are hunting for pure control. They actively look for empathetic, deeply caring people whose emotions they can easily dictate, whose daily attention they can monopolize, and whose core self-worth they can shape at will. When you were still drowning in insecurity, when you were constantly doubting your own memory of events, and when you were repeatedly begging them for approval, you were serving their inflated ego perfectly. Your confusion made them feel incredibly intelligent. Your constant need for their reassurance made them feel profoundly important. Your willingness to stay up late arguing and explaining yourself made them feel completely superior. You were never loved as a whole, independent human being. You were merely used as a reliable source of psychological validation. The exact moment you step out of that fog and begin standing firmly in your own truth, the entire game collapses. When you stop looking to them for permission to be happy, you break the script they wrote for your life. And that loss of authority triggers a state of absolute, unmitigated internal panic within them. When obvious gaslighting stops working, they reach for the most destructive weapon in their entire arsenal: extreme psychological projection. In the past, they relied on basic insults, petty arguments, or simple denials of the truth to keep you off balance. But once they realize you have outgrown those basic tactics, they stop playing small. They launch a highly calculated, deeply toxic assault aimed directly at the core of your identity. You need to understand exactly how this works. A narcissist possesses a massive vault of hidden flaws, inner malice, intense insecurities, and toxic traits that they completely refuse to accept about themselves. Because their fragile ego cannot carry the weight of their own brokenness, they take that entire pile of mental garbage and violently pin it onto you. Overnight, the reality gets completely inverted. Suddenly, you are the one being labeled as the master manipulator. They will look you in the eye with absolute conviction and call you selfish, cold, cruel, heartless, and mentally unstable. The most dangerous part of this specific phase is how incredibly subtle and twisted it is. It doesn't come wrapped in obvious rage, screaming, or slammed doors. If it did, you would see it coming and protect yourself. Instead, it comes beautifully wrapped in fake concern, deep pity, or manufactured sadness. They will look at you with a sigh, shake their head, and tell you they are genuinely worried about how much you have changed. They will claim that your new boundaries, your self-respect, or your time in therapy have actually ruined you, turning you into a bitter, aggressive, or difficult person. They might even suggest that the people helping you heal are brainwashing you. The goal behind this psychological trick is cruel, calculating, and simple. They want you to tightly associate your self-respect with intense guilt. They know that you are a good, caring person who hates the thought of hurting others, so they use your own conscience against you. They want you to doubt your progress so thoroughly and feel so bad about standing up for yourself that you willingly shatter your own boundaries and shrink back into the quiet, compliant version of yourself they could easily manage. If extreme projection fails to break your grip on reality, and they see that you are still standing firm, they instantly pivot and shift their tactics to weaponized nostalgia. This is a massive emotional trap. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the hostility completely vanishes. They will bring up old memories, talk about the good old days, rewrite history to erase all the pain they caused, and act incredibly reflective, soft, or deeply apologetic. They will send you long messages or say things out loud about how much they deeply miss the old you. They will tell you that you used to laugh more, that you used to be so full of light, and claim that you were honestly much happier before you started focusing so heavily on yourself and your boundaries. They will paint a beautiful, golden picture of the past to make you feel like you are the one destroying something special. Whatever you do, do not fall for this. You must see this sudden change in weather for what it truly is. This is not real accountability. It is not a breakthrough, and it is not genuine love. It is pure bait. The hard truth you have to accept is that they do not miss who you actually were as a person. They miss how incredibly easy you were to influence and control. They don't miss your personality. They miss your vulnerability. They desperately miss the version of you that gave without asking for anything in return. The version that accepted blame for things you didn't do. The version that endlessly explained yourself to keep the peace. And the version that completely ignored your own mental and physical well-being just to keep them comfortable. They want you to look backward because they know that if you keep looking forward, you will see your future without them. And looking forward means they lose you forever. They are testing you to see if you still doubt yourself enough to step back into the arena. If you take the bait, if you get emotional, or if you step back into that quicksand just to defend your character and prove that you aren't a cold person, you give them exactly what they want. The second you engage with that nostalgia, the door opens, the old patterns reset, and they instantly regain total control over your life. When criticism, projection, and nostalgia all fail to break your reality, the narcissist realizes they are completely out of options. That is when they pull out their absolute highest card, their ultimate trump card, weaponized vulnerability. This is the moment where the angry, superior facade completely drops, and they suddenly present themselves as entirely fragile, broken, and helpless. Out of nowhere, they will experience a massive, intense personal crisis. It could be a sudden emotional breakdown, a terrifying health scare, a massive financial emergency, or a sudden conflict with someone else in their life. You need to understand right now that the timing of this disaster is never an accident. It is perfectly orchestrated. They have studied you for a long time. They know your deep empathy. They know your psychological triggers, and they are actively counting on your compassion to override your logic. They want to make you feel completely responsible for their survival, forcing you into a position where you feel like a cruel, heartless person if you don't drop everything to save them. The most twisted part of this tactic is that, in many cases, they consciously create the very chaos they are begging you to rescue them from. They will intentionally neglect their responsibilities, start arguments, or make reckless financial choices just to spark a fire, and then turn to you, crying for help. They don't actually want a solution to their problem. What they truly want is proof. They want undeniable proof that their sudden demands and their emotional chaos still carry more weight in your life than your personal boundaries. They will approach you with a broken voice, asking for just this once exceptions to the rules you've set. They will frame it as a minor favor, a temporary emergency, or a quick conversation just to get through the week. But you must recognize that every single just this once exception is not an innocent request. It is a psychological crowbar meant to pry open your boundaries. If you give in to that pressure, you aren't just losing your time, your focus, or your energy. The true cost is far higher. You lose trust in yourself. You teach your own brain that your peace doesn't matter, and you undo months of healing in a single moment of emotional surrender. To survive this final assault, you have to completely reprogram the way you view kindness. True compassion does not require self-destruction, and it never demands that you sacrifice your sanity to keep someone else comfortable. You are fully allowed to recognize someone's pain and even feel a sense of distant empathy for it, without volunteering to step into the fire and carry it for them. You can care about a person's struggle while completely refusing to take responsibility for it. A fundamental truth you must anchor your mind to is this: anyone who genuinely, truly cares about your well-being will never punish you for getting stronger. They will never guilt-trip you for protecting your peace. When you see the narcissist frantically escalating their behavior, screaming, crying, or throwing emergencies at you, do not mistake that for power. It is not a show of strength. It is the frantic, desperate thrashing of a dying control tactic. It is the panic of a dictator realizing their kingdom is gone. Your absolute, unshakable, calm silence and your total refusal to engage in their games are the ultimate proof that you have permanently outgrown the cage. You do not owe them an explanation, you do not need a final closure conversation, and you absolutely do not need a dramatic, screaming confrontation to prove your point. Trying to get a narcissist to understand your perspective is a trap, because they benefit entirely from misunderstanding you. True freedom requires absolutely no permission from them. It simply requires a quiet, firm, internal decision to live differently, to aggressively protect your peace, and to honor your own truth over their manufactured chaos. The second you stop reacting to their emergencies, stop defending your character, and stop answering the alarm bells they ring, their perceived power completely evaporates into thin air. You realize that the chains holding you were entirely imaginary, and you finally step into the peace you worked so hard to build. The moment you stop responding to their manufactured emergencies is the exact moment you reclaim your future. Their frantic attempt to pull you back into the chaos is the ultimate confirmation that you are no longer controllable. If you have reached this stage, remember that you do not owe them your peace, your energy, or your life. You have worked far too hard to build your clarity, and no emotional trap is worth trading your freedom away. True strength isn't about winning an argument with a manipulator. It's about walking away so completely that their games no longer have an audience. Trust your intuition, honor your boundaries, and keep moving forward without looking back. If this message brought you the clarity you needed today and helped you make sense of the psychological patterns you are facing, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you ensure you never miss our daily deep dives into mindset, recovery, and emotional freedom, while helping this community reach others who are still trapped in the fog of confusion. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this truth right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and stay grounded in your reality.